Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Eats Books, and I'm here today to bring you my weekly reads video. This is the video where I tell you what I read last week, what I'm currently reading, and what I hope to read for the coming week. I had a pretty good reading week this week. I was able to accomplish a good number of books. I actually finished 3. I DNF'd a 4th one, but we'll get into that in a minute. I had a snow day this week, which is what actually helped me get a good majority of my reading done. It was our first snow day of the year. It was a little unexpected, so I was actually really happy to have it off. Obviously, it would be good to get paid, but I enjoyed having the extra day off. I needed it this week. Brooke also came down with an ear infection from this cold that she has had for the last 2.5, almost 3 weeks. She always gets ear infections almost every time she gets a cold because she does not blow her nose enough. We talk about it all the time, but never happens. She's on antibiotics now and feeling just fine, so we'll see how this week goes. Anyway, enough babbling. Let's get into these books. As always, I'm going to start with my lowest ranked and work my way to my highest ranked. This week I did DNF a book, so I did not give it a rating, though recently I've been kind of grappling with rating books I did not finish. I might make a discussion video very soon talking about that, so we'll see. Anyway, that book was Handle with Care by Jodi Picoult. Now, I went into this book with reservations to start because I had just finished a book by this author and I did not thoroughly enjoy it. I liked certain parts of it very much, but other parts I just rolled my eyes at and didn't really like. So I went into this book already with that on my mind. Now, I'm going to talk about this book, and if you plan on reading it or ever want to read it, you may want to just fast forward to the next book because I am going to give a little bit of some spoilers away because I don't know how to talk about this book without spoiling what I just read, just to tell you why I really didn't care for it. So, spoiler warning, if you don't want to know anything, skip ahead. I only read 152 pages of this almost 500-page book, so I'm not spoiling the whole book, I'm just spoiling the beginning. I have many negatives when it comes to this book. First of all, it deals with a subject matter that I was just not comfortable reading. I have a bit of medical anxiety. You guys don't know this about me, but I have had some very bad experiences medically, and it has left me with a phobia. I don't like hearing about medical things such as like this book, the girl was born with brittle bone disease, so her bones are breaking almost constantly. She could just get a break at any second, and when they talked about it and talked about her being born and talked about her emergency room visits in detail, it just was already something that I personally couldn't handle. I was not in the right mindset for it. I can deal with certain medical things if I am in the right mindset. Like I can watch Grey's Anatomy as long as I'm having a good day and I feel like I can handle it and I know it's just make-believe, it's not real. I can separate myself from it. On the days where I'm really anxious, I sometimes can't do that and it just gets very overwhelming and I have to not read the book or not watch the show or the movie or whatever the case is. I just don't handle it very well. So that was a negative, but that wasn't anything to do with the book itself. That was a personal negative. I just was having a hard time reading it. And I also started this right after I finished Lilac Girls, which that was a very emotionally heavy book. So I was already in like a darker place. I probably should have started a lighter book in between. I just didn't. So I was just not in the right headspace probably to start. But I said, I'm gonna give it a try. I kind of forced myself through those situations. I dealt with it and I kept going. This book is told from I think her mother, her father, her sister's perspective, also a family friend's perspective, and a lawyer's perspective. They are all writing their pieces like they're writing to the girl with the disease. She is 5 years old, which this is another negative that I found. She is a 5-year-old girl, but she was talking and relating and feeling like a 10, 11, 12-year-old, somewhere in that range. And they kind of, the author, Jodi, kind of explained that away as she has nothing else to do in her life, so she just watches, reads a lot of books and watches a lot of movies, so she knows how to relate. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't children that are like that, but it just was a little unbelievable that a 5-year-old could say some of the things that she said and do some of the things that she does. I don't know. I just couldn't get behind that, but I still kept pushing forward. The characters in the book that were telling their stories were not very likable. The mother and father are arguing over whether or not to sue for a wrongful birth. Their family friend, who was also their doctor, did not catch the disease early enough, and it was kind of questioning whether if she had caught it early enough, whether they would have terminated the pregnancy or not, so they could win a lot of money. Not that they regret having their child. The mother's more looking at it as, well, I can get a lot of money and the child will be taken care of for the rest of her life, but she'll have to go through basically saying she didn't want the child to begin with in this lawsuit. The father doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to even think that. He doesn't want to go through with that. So they're kind of at odds over that. It also is told from the sister's perspective, who is older. I think she is supposed to be about 10, and she is being ignored, and just everything is about her younger sister, which obviously when you have someone with either a physical disability or whatever, they kind of take precedent because you're always caring for them and you're always worrying about them. So this healthier child is getting pushed to the side. So I can kind of see where the author was trying to go with these heavier debating kind of topics. However, it also felt very reminiscent of My Sister's Keeper, which I have read by this author, and it just kind of felt like the same plot line. I don't know if any of you have ever read it, but it kind of felt the same way, but this felt like a worse version of that. So I was having problems relating to the characters and dealing with the characters, and then also the lawyer's story was kind of coming out of left field a little bit, and but whatever. I was dealing with all of this. I was reading all of this, not really enjoying it and not really liking it, but I was reading it and it was easy to read, so I was kind of flying through it. I don't know what happened or why this thought crossed the author's mind, but this is why I DNF'd the book. I was reading it, and as the mother and father are sort of, bickering and arguing over the subject of the lawsuit, we get the father's perspective, I think only 2 times, maybe 3 times so far into the part that I read, and it doesn't show like he's overly angry or anything like that. I don't know where this one scene that this author included in here came from. He didn't seem overly angry. He didn't seem like he was very malicious or mean. He was a cop and he seemed like he cared about his family, and obviously it's very stressful, the stuff that they're going through, but it seemed like he was an all-around good guy. And then all of a sudden, within the course of 1 chapter, he went from just being mildly ticked off that she wants to go through with the lawsuit to him raping his wife. I just didn't know why that was included in this book. I had no idea. So I just DNF'd it right there. And I'm really hesitant about whether or not I want to pick up more books by this author. I mean, I have 4 more. I might just give them a try because I have them. I spent money on them. But I'm going to think about it because I just couldn't get past it. As soon as I read that scene and then looked at the next pages that came and nothing was mentioned more about it, I didn't understand it. And I looked up reviews about it, and it seems like she never went back to that topic, and the husband and wife stayed somewhat together. I don't know, because I didn't go too full into the spoilers, but I don't know. I just couldn't get past that fact. It came out of nowhere. It just blindsided me so much, and I just could not deal with it, so I DNF'd it. The next book that I read was a much lighter book, and that was The BFG by Roald Dahl. I gave this 3 stars. It was cute. It was not as good as I remembered it as when I was a child reading it. I could see more things now as an adult that I was just kind of okay. There's made up language and things like that, which is fun when you're a kid, but when you're an adult, I don't know, for me it just kind of grated on me after a while. I was just whatever. But it was really quick. It was easy to read, and I will definitely watch the movie. I still think my favorite book by Roald Dahl is Matilda, so I may give that one a read very soon. The first sentence in this book was, Sophie couldn't sleep. The next book I read this week was Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. I also gave this book 3 stars, and I will tell you why. This is a book that has been very, very hyped on BookTube and in general. So I had heard so many things about this over the course of the last few months while I've been here on BookTube, and everyone just loved it and they were raving about it, and I had been very good to ignore spoilers and not to hear any spoilers until about a week and a half before I actually got this from the library. I'd actually heard one spoiler, which kind of took away from reading the book just a touch, but not really. I don't think it took away too much where I can't be objective in my rating of the book. Maybe contemporary romance, which is what this is, just is not my thing. It's about a girl who is allergic to everything, and she kind of lives in her house basically in a bubble because if she goes outside, she will die. And then a boy moves in next door, and they kind of start talking over the computer, and things kind of progress from there. That's all I'll tell you, because if you guys are going to read this, I don't want to give anything more away. And because contemporary romance is probably not my favorite genre, I may not be the best judge of character on this book, but I don't know. I couldn't like it. Not even for the romance. There was just other parts of it that I don't want to say anything about because I still think it's a book that a lot of you will probably read and would definitely enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed reading it. It just was not as enjoyable or as mind-blowing as I thought it was going to be because everyone had hyped it so much. But that's the problem with hype in BookTube. It's just sometimes books that you are really looking forward to don't pan out. So while it was good, I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, and I just know that contemporary romance is not really my genre, though there are some books that are romance that I do like and I do enjoy, but it wasn't one of them. Like, I didn't ship the characters or anything. But anyway, the first sentence in this book was, I've read many more books than you. The final book I read this week was The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is book 1 in the Chaos Walking trilogy, and I really enjoyed this. I think it was a fun time. It is a YA dystopian fantasy type novel, and it has to do with this group of people who are in this new settlement, and they get this thing called the noise. Basically, it is a disease which causes all of the people to be able to hear everyone else's inner thoughts. So it's just a constant chattering and a constant input of information, and that is why they call it the noise. It's a very unique premise. I really did like the premise of the book. I thought it was something that I hadn't really read anything about before, and I liked it enough that I want to continue the story. There were some very slow parts in the book, and it is YA, so there were some of those parts where you're just like, oh, okay, this is definitely geared to a younger audience, but I liked it enough to go on to book 2, and I heard book 2 is much better than book 1, so I will definitely be picking it up. I'm just like not in a rush to get to it. I will get to it eventually, but I'm not like heading to the library right now to go pick it up. But anyway, I did really enjoy it. The first line in this book says, the first thing you find out when your dog learns to talk is that dogs don't got nothing much to say. So those were all the books that I read this week. Now let's go on to what I'm currently reading. I haven't even started it yet, but the next book that I plan on picking up is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. I have not read what it is about. I don't really want to know because I'm tired of being spoiled by everything. So I just want to go into it and see what the story is about on my own. Now that was the book that I am currently reading, though I have not started it yet. I am waiting to hear back from Laura from Narglecatcher. We are supposed to be doing a buddy reads this week on Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I am not a big classics person. I just have not read many of them, and she really loves Jane Austen, and she recommended that we do this as a buddy reads, and I thought that would be a great motivation to help me really get into it and to see if I like it now that I'm older. I have tried Jane Austen when I was probably 18 or 19, and while I enjoyed it, it wasn't like my favorite, but I'm finding as I get older, I start to enjoy classics a little more and a little more, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading this with her. So if she gets back to me and we decide to start this first, this may become my currently reading, and Female of the Species may get put on the back burner. And the next book that I may read this week is The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. It is #on the BookTube shelf February pick. I am trying not to buy any books. If you guys haven't noticed, I really haven't had any book hauls lately because I'm trying to save some money. We, spent a lot at Christmas time and I need to kind of recoup. So I'm trying not to spend anything, so I requested it from the library, and I didn't think it was going to come in as fast as it did. So I am going to have to probably pick that up this week, and I assume I'm going to have to read it this week because with my library, new releases are only 7-day loans. So I suspect that I will have to cram it in. If I don't have to and I can put it off till next week, I may do that, but that's just kind of up in the air. So I figured, since I have 2 books here that I'm definitely going to read, a third one kind of up in the air, that I will just pick a 4th one out of my TBR jar just in case I decide to DNF one of these, or for whatever reason I fly through them, which I don't see that happening, but you never know. I'd rather have too many choices than not enough. So I'm going to pick one more book from my TBR jar. Hopefully it's not another Jodi Picoult book, because I will just put that one right back in. And my pick is Kingdom Keepers. Hold on, let me go grab that. So I found it. Kingdom Keepers is actually a middle grade series that I've been looking forward to reading for quite some time. My son read this first book and he really enjoyed it. And it is by Ridley Pearson. Now, if you guys don't know what this book is about, it is actually a story that is set in Disney World. I don't know how they exactly go about it. I'm sure it's somewhat fantasy or whatever, but I don't really know. I guess, again, I don't want to know too much, but I know it's a whole series of books. I think it's got like 8 or 9 books to the series, and a lot of reviews have been quite positive on it that I've read. So I really want to give it a try, especially because I love Disney World. So we will see how that goes. Again, I don't know if I will get to it or if I'll interchange it with one of the other books that I just mentioned, but this is definitely now going to be on my TBR. So those were all the books that I read, that I'm currently reading, and that I hope to read for the coming week. What did you guys read this week? Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not? Did you ever read an author that you just couldn't stand, or you couldn't stand something that they did in the book, like me for this week? Anyway, let me know down in those comments below. I hope you guys have a great week and happy reading.